Hey everyone! Today we're going to take a look at one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, 1972's What's Up, Doc, directed by Peter Bogdanovich and starring Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal. It deals with 4 identical overnight bags. One contains top-secret documents, one contains a rich woman's jewels, one contains a professor's igneous rocks, and one is just an overnight bag. These 4 overnight bags all end up at the same hotel, and on the same floor no less, and as they get shuffled around by their owners and other people who are trying to steal them, the mix-up leads to a shootout, a car chase, and all kinds of craziness. You can try if you like to keep track of each bag's location, who has which one. Good luck, I know I've tried and failed, but this isn't really a movie that you watch for the plot. This film is like an homage to classic screwball comedies of the 30s and 40s. The zany art form was spawned by the Great Depression and is typically characterized by fast dialogue, dominant female leads, scene-stealing supporting characters, and a certain bubbly quality. Screwball comedies are like romantic comedies on steroids. Stories often involve madcap millionaires and a befuddled individual who gets sucked into their maelstrom of insanity. Conflict might begin with a small enough complication, but it eventually leads to chaos and a dizzying spectacle of physical and verbal comedy, where anything and everything can happen. While you can trace the origins of What's Up, Doc to all of these films, it has the most in common with 1938's Bringing Up Baby, directed by Howard Hawks and starring Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. Personally, I wouldn't call What's Up, Doc a remake, as all the details are changed, but there are definitely some similar story beats. I actually mentioned this movie a few weeks ago in the Cary Grant filmography chat that I did, and I was thrilled by the enthusiastic response that I got from a few of you in the comments. What's Up, Doc is one of those movies that I always wanted to mention to people, but none of my friends had ever heard of it, which was frustrating and meant I typically kept my quotes and my references to myself. So the fact that people watching that other video were like, "Hey, I love that movie too, and you should review it," that just made my day. Now, when I sat down to watch What's Up, Doc again, and it had been quite a few years since I saw the whole thing, I was a tiny bit concerned that I might not find it as funny as I had before. I remembered a lot of the jokes still, and the element of surprise was gone, so was it going to hold up? And what if it didn't? But I needn't have worried. It absolutely does still hold up, at least for me, and I think I may have laughed even more than I did the first time. There were parts I'd forgotten about, so that was fun, and I even sometimes found myself laughing before the joke was made. I'd recognize a scene, and I knew what was going to happen, and I started laughing in anticipation. Probably that would have been annoying and distracting if I'd been watching it with someone who'd never seen it before, but I was watching it with my mom, and she's seen this movie many times. She saw it when it first came out in the theater, and she was right there laughing with me. Oh, we had such a good time with this, and it felt so good to laugh like that, to just have 90 minutes of pure escapism, and to throw my head back and roar with laughter until I felt like I couldn't breathe. I firmly believe that laughter is good for your health, and I feel like every time I watch this movie, it adds a couple years to my life. The leads, Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal, are brilliant, and their comedic timing is on point. Streisand's character, Judy Maxwell, is a trouble magnet. We know this from the start. She crosses the street and cars crash around her. All she has to do is look at someone and something goes wrong. And for whatever reason, Howard Bannister becomes her special target. You might not think of Streisand as a comedic actress, but in this and in Funny Girl, she shows huge talent in that department. Of course, she does some singing here as well, covering Cole Porter's You're the Top in the opening credits, and again with Ryan O'Neal in character in the end credits. You can actually hear snippets of various Cole Porter songs playing in the background in the Hotel Bristol lobby, another nod to the 1930s. And there's also a scene where she sings As Time Goes By, or at least part of it. Judy could come across as annoying, I suppose, but the character is so in keeping with the screwball comedy female lead type that it's to be expected. And while some of the mishaps are of her making, certainly there's no question that she's a catalyst. At a certain point, when everything is snowballed into a hilarious disaster, it's gone beyond just being her fault. As Dr. Howard Bannister, or as Judy calls him, Steve, Ryan O'Neal is wonderfully funny, absent-minded, forgetful, dazed and confused, and more adorkable as the movie goes on. The hilarity really begins when Judy impersonates his fiancée, Eunice Burns, and no one will listen to his protestations. In his desperation, he starts breaking the fourth wall, turning to us, the audience, as the only ones who will listen, the only ones who understand. The crazier the situation gets, the more amusingly matter-of-fact his reactions, like he's becoming resigned to the madness. A couple minutes ago, I mentioned a staple of the screwball comedy was the scene-stealing supporting characters. That is certainly a factor here, although I'm not sure if I'd call it scene-stealing or just skillful spotlight sharing. Everybody weaves in and out here, getting their share of the screen and the laughs. The late great Madeline Kahn plays Howard's fiancée, Eunice Burns. That's a person named Eunice. I had no idea until recently that this was her feature film debut. I believe most actors fantasize about having a debut as good as this and never get it. Kenneth Mars, who, like Madeline Kahn, is most known for his appearances in Mel Brooks comedies, plays Howard's sneering rival for a research grant, which is being given by Mr. Larrabee, played very charmingly by Austin Pendleton early in his long career. And the rest of the supporting cast is great too. The nail-biting whistleblower, his tail, who's always lugging around a bag of golf clubs, the dry hotel manager, the sketchy desk clerk, the hotel detective. The scenes where he's using his charm to delay the rich woman from getting to her room. I think that's one of my favorite parts. Although, I also love the part where all the musicologists stick their heads under the table, and the escalation of the hotel room sequence, and that famous and phenomenally outrageous car chase through San Francisco. And in a movie that's full of quotable dialogue and great one-liners, they managed to save some of the best for last and give it to the irate judge with the frayed nerves, played to perfection by Liam Dunn. By the time he shows up, you might be thinking, okay, this movie can't get any funnier, right? But no, it can! I don't think I've found another movie that makes me laugh as hard, as long, as consistently as this one does, and that's why I've got to give it the title of funniest movie I've ever seen. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, let me know in the comments what you think of this one if you've seen it, and if you haven't, I hope that you'll check it out sometime. You might find that it's just what you need right now. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.